2.6, which is special angles on parallel lines. Anytime you have two parallel lines, okay, and they should be marked with arrows, or you could be told that the lines are parallel. For instance, if this was called line L and line M, they might tell you line L is parallel to line M, okay? Or they can have the arrow markings. Okay, anytime that happens and you have a transversal, okay, this one here is the transversal, a line cutting through both of them, okay, you're creating 8 angles, okay, and I've numbered them here. You can number them differently, but I just went 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So we have 8 angles created, and all of these, you can pick any 2 of these angles from parallel lines cut by a transversal, and those 2 angles will be one of 2 things. They will either be congruent or supplementary. We talked about in section 2.5 linear pairs of angles, which were supplementary. They add to 180. So for instance, 2 and 3, these form this straight line, so they add to 180. They're supplementary. Okay, but 1 and 3, those are vertical angles, so they're congruent. Okay, and now we're going to talk about how you could compare these 1 through 4 angles with 5 through 8, since they're not touching, they're not connected in any way. Okay, so there's a few different conjectures we're going to write down. The first one is with corresponding angles. And corresponding angles are going to be angles that correspond. So we have 2 intersections in this scenario. Okay, so the top intersection and the bottom intersection, or it may be left and right. Okay, but the ones that are in the same, you could say corners, are going to correspond. For instance, angle 1 is in the top left corner. It corresponds to the top left corner of this intersection. Angle 2 is in the top right corner. It corresponds to angle 6 because it's in the top right corner. Okay, same goes for 4 to 8 and 3 to 7. Okay, those are corresponding, same spot. If you want to write same spot on here, you can, if that helps you remember. Okay, corresponding angles. Okay, if 2 lines are cut by a transversal, then corresponding angles are, okay, and I told you they're either going to be congruent or supplementary. So let's look and see if you can tell. 2 is an acute angle. It corresponds to 6, which is an acute angle. Okay, so 2 acute angles cannot be supplementary. Okay, these are the same size. They are congruent. And that goes for all of those pairs. Okay, so 3 and 7 are congruent. 4 and 8 are congruent. If you want to write that out, what that would look like, you would say angle 1 is congruent to angle 5. Okay, and you could have said that for any of the corresponding pairs. Remember, this is our symbol for congruent. Okay, the next one is alternate interior angles. Alternate interior angles are pretty much what it sounds like. Alternate means different sides, not the same side. Alternate sides, and when we're talking about alternate sides of what, it's of the transversal. So alternate sides, okay, and interior. Okay, so interior of the parallel lines. So here's my interior. Okay, now I want the angles that are alternate sides of the transversal. Okay, so 3 and 5 are alternate interior angles. So angle 3 and 5, or angles 4 and 6. Okay, those are alternate interior angles. Okay, if you want to kind of color code, it's 4 to 6 or 5 to 3. Okay, 4 and 3 are not alternate interior because they're on the same line. They're a linear pair. Same for 5 and 6. Okay, now these pairs, they're either going to be congruent or supplementary. So if 2 parallel lines are cut by a transversal, then alternate interior angles are, and if you look, 4 is acute, 6 is acute. 5 is obtuse, 3 is obtuse. They're the same. So this is also congruent. So you could have said angle 3 is congruent to angle 5, and angle 4 is congruent to angle 6. Okay, the next one is alternate exterior angles. Okay, we said interior was in between the parallel lines, so exterior is going to be outside of them. Okay, so exterior are angles 1 and 2 and 8 and 7. Okay, alternate means the same thing still though. So if they're on alternate sides of the transversal, okay, that would be 1 is on the left side. So down here, alternate side would be the right side. So 1 and 7. So angle 1 and angle 7. Angle 2 is on the right side, so the alternate side is 8. Angle 2 and angle 8. Okay, now we have to decide, are those congruent or supplementary? So if these are acute, acute, obtuse, obtuse, I think I'm going to go with congruent. Okay, so here we could say congruent. All right. Next is same side interior angles. Again, interior in between the parallel lines, but instead of alternate, we want the same side. Okay, so angle 4 is on the same side of the transversal as angle 5. Angle 3 is on the same side of the transversal as angle 6. So this is a pair of same side interior. This is a pair of same side interior. So angle 3 and angle 6, or angles 4 and angle 5. Okay, but in this case, if you look at your pair, 5 is obtuse and 4 is acute. So those are not the same. So they're not congruent. And we said if they're not congruent, they are supplementary. And I hope by now you know what supplementary means. If you do not, or if you forget easily, make a note that that means they add to 180 degrees. Same side exterior. Okay, again, exterior is on the outside of the parallel lines. Okay, so here's my exterior, and I want same side. So 1 is on the left of the transversal, 8 is on the left of the transversal. 2 is on the right, 7 is on the right. So we have 1 and 8. And we have 2 and 7. Okay, now these, again, if we look, acute and obtuse, those are not congruent, so they are supplementary. And again, if you need to make that note, that means add to 180 degrees. So what this would look like in a problem, this is just a sample problem. Okay, if you are asked to find the measure of the angles X, Y, and Z. So here's angle X. I guess this is supposed to be Z, not W. We'll fix that real quick. Oops, too big of an eraser. So given the angle 63, we need to find these angles down here. So we'll look and see what it corresponds to. Okay, so if we're looking at corresponding, remember we're looking at this as two separate rectangles, but they're the same. So 63 is in the bottom right corner. Okay, X is in the bottom right corner. That means those are corresponding. So 63 and X, because of corresponding, I'm just going to abbreviate that, are congruent. So if this is 63, X is 63 degrees. Okay, 63 and Y, they are inside the parallel lines and on the same side. So 63 and y are same side interior. That means they are supplementary, so we need to figure out what's left for the 180 after I use 63, and that is 117. So angle y is 117 degrees. Okay, now you could keep using our rules we learned today and say that 63 and z are alternate sides of the transversal, and they're both interior. So these are alternate interior angles, so they are congruent. So z is also 63 degrees. Or, knowing that the x was 63, you could realize these are vertical angles, and you could get your 63 that way. So there's lots of combinations of our angle rules that we've learned this week that you can use. Okay, come to class ready to do the assignment over this. Have your notes. They'll be helpful to look back on the rules so you remember which ones are congruent and which ones are supplementary.